Hey everybody! Today I am going to use a technique that I learned during the Split Coast Stampers Holiday Fest challenges to make this absolutely gorgeous mixed media poinsettia. Now, Holiday Fest features 6 different holiday tutorials and a bunch of challenges. We do our challenges every other day, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's a way to really kind of get into holiday crafting every year. So I enjoyed the heck out of it this year, and when I saw the very first tutorial, I said to myself, "Self, you have to try this because this is your jam, this kind of mixed media goodness." So I did not come up with this technique. I will link you to the original tutorial author's tutorial in the description below, but I had to give it a try. I'm also going to have this be our mixed media challenge. This week, the Mixability Challenge at Split Coast, I am hosting, and this seemed like the perfect thing. We're in the holiday season. It's mixed media. Win-win. So what I've done is I've coated each piece of this layering die cut with two-way glue, meaning a glue that stays sticky after it's dry. That's really important for this technique. And this glue has a chisel tip, so it let me cover these large die cuts really easily. Now this will be tacky when you're working with it. You'll see me kind of fiddling with it every now and then. It might stick to your fingers. It's okay. It's all part of the experience. So now that these are dry and I used my hand dryer to kind of help that along, I'm going to be adding some Gilding Flakes. Now, if you don't have Gilding Flakes, you can do foil. You can do anything that's shiny, really. I think that just your normal hot foil, anything like that would work. You just want little pieces of it. And what we're doing is we're creating a double shimmer on this card. So once you have chosen your color of Gilding Flakes, I chose this beautiful warm copper. I actually have 2 different colors that I'm going to be using because I'm going to use the pure gold Gilding Flakes on the leaves of this gorgeous poinsettia. And what you can do is just barely tack them down at first. We're going to really ensure that this lay is completely flat at the end. So don't worry if there are little pieces sticking up. You can tap them down with your tweezers as I'm doing here, or just don't worry about it until the next step because it's not really going to matter very much. Now, if you are the type of person to purchase craft supplies for something that you saw online, like this video, and then maybe not remember to do that particular craft that you were so excited about that you went out and spent $30 on the supplies, then you're in luck today because I'm going to use literally some 40-year-old products. I bought these powders in the 80s. So I don't know if y'all know this, but that was the late 1900s. And so I feel completely justified in purchasing everything that I purchased for tutorials because who knows, 40 years later, you might be like, hey, I'm going to try this tutorial at Split Coast. I sure am glad I bought those supplies 40 years ago. So there you have it. If you need any justification, there you go. So as I said, I'm choosing the gold to put down on the leaves. So it's just a little bit cooler color than the copper that I put on the poinsettias. I die cut these out of colored cardstock. You certainly don't have to do that. For me, it just kind of created a base color, but you could do it on white cardstock. You could color white cardstock with alcohol markers for your base layer so that instead of an all over pink, you might actually have some shading underneath there. And it will show through the next step that we're going to do. Now I have just a rough brush here. This is a brush I use kind of for scumbling in watercolor, but anything with some kind of stiff bristles to just tack down those little pieces of foil that are sticking up. Don't worry about anything that's sticking off the edge at this point because we're going to take care of that as well. Now I'm opening up my late 1900s vintage Pearl X powders. I love these. I have many colors because, like I said, I went all in, full set syndrome when I got them. And there are lots of techniques that use these, and you can see I've already used quite a bit of these powders in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So what I'm going to do now is just take a soft brush. This one is really soft. I use it for a lot of powder techniques. It actually has a silicone tool at the other end that I love. And I'm going to apply 2 different colors of Pearl X powder. This just gives me a little variation across each of these poinsettia layers in this layering die, and I really like the way it looks. And when you see the close-ups at the end, I think you're going to appreciate having a lighter color and a darker color on each of these layers. So as you can see, it's a very light, fluffy powder, so a lot came out with my brush the first time, and I'm just picking that up off the paper, the excess, to put onto different layers. A little bit really goes a long way. And I will reclaim some of it later on in the video. So just using this kind of rose gold and then this darker pink, and I'll list all the colors that I used below, it really gives a lot of variation across the petals and so much shimmer. I know it's hard to see in this view, but I'm going to show you lots and lots of close-ups. And of course, this still photograph hopefully will capture some of it, although photography, not so much with sparkle, as you know. So once those are covered, and the way you'll know they're covered is they're not sticky anymore. There will be some tackiness at the edge of some of these die cuts, and you can just put the powder on the edges of the die cuts to remove that little bit of leftover tackiness where you might still have some glue exposed. Now, since those 2 colors were mixed, I'm not putting them back into the container. I had them mixed pretty well on there. And I'm just using a microfiber cloth to clean my brush kind of vigorously. You don't need a new brush for the next color. It's really not that important. And if you get a little bit of gold into one of the greens or whatever, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So I have some green here. I have a lighter green. And I also have gold, which I think is really pretty on the leaves. So I'll add both of those. It also looks beautiful with that foil. You can sometimes get a little bit out of the lid, but I usually find that I need more powder to really coat all of that adhesive on the leaf. So go ahead and just dip in there. Like I said, these last 40 years. You don't have to worry that you're going to run out once you buy these, because I've used these a lot. This was a product that was very, very big when I was stamping in the early 2000s. So I was able to just get some of that gold back into the container. And then I'm going to use this teeny tiny little flower center. I had cut that out of green cardstock, and I just applied gold only powder to the center. I thought that would make a really nice contrast with the pink. So now I'm taking this little scrubber. This is a very, very firm textured scrubber. And the woman in the tutorial used a product that's available in the UK as her little scrubbing brush. I could not find one of those. So this is just a very common kitchen tool. And I'll put the one that I used in the link below. But you want one that's really hard, not something soft like a sponge. And this is why, because see those little pieces coming off the edges? It completely flattens the flakes down into the adhesive, and it also cleans up all the edges. So see how perfectly cleaned up that is? There's nothing left at the edge. So here I'm going to do the same thing on the little teeny piece. And when you're done, it's amazing what this does, and it does not remove any of the shimmer. It does not remove the powder. That's why that really great two-way glue is doing its job and holding on to all that beautiful shimmer and the beautiful foil. So now I will just layer these up. Look at that green and the gold. See how having two colors makes a big difference, especially on this leaf. You have like that blue color and then that goldish green color. And I just think it's so interesting. So now I will put them together. I was feeling a little bit lazy and I did not go look up the layering guide. So I just kind of winged it to put them together. But the great thing about these layering dies is it really doesn't matter. Layer it however you want. I love that there are this many pieces to this die. And when you see it on the finished card, you'll see what I mean. It just has so much interest and so many places for those gilding flakes to just pop out in the finished creation. I love it so much. So I'm just using regular glue to put these pieces together. I just sort of left them stacked like this so I could kind of see where I wanted them. And I think I had a little bit of adhesive left on that one, a little bit of that two-way, so it stuck a little bit. I was going a little bit too fast. So arrange these however you like, and then just move on to the next layer. Now I finally went out and got some new glassboard magnets. So I have plenty of magnets for when I'm gluing things down like this. I just find it so handy. I did that over the Black Friday weekend and I already have them. So that's great. So now I'm putting the two leaves sort of near each other. I never really know where to put them. So that's what I'm doing this time. But look at how shimmery that is. It's so beautiful. And see what I mean with the two different pinks? It's just gorgeous. And I love that you get that contrast in texture between the shimmery powder and the gilding flakes that are so very shiny. And it all just melds together with the cardstock in this process that she showed us during the Holiday Fest tutorial. Really beautiful. I encourage you to go look at her sample. She did trees, Christmas trees, and a very clean and simple white background. And it is absolutely stunning. I don't always run out and try the tutorial the first day that I see it, and this is one that I did. So here's the finished card. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.